home security long enough to know when something feels off. Most people who request a free in-home estimate do it through the website, or they call the office during business hours. But that night, sometime after 7:30 p.m., I received a text from an unknown number. No name, no introduction, just a single line. I need someone to look at a security issue tonight, if possible. Nothing unusual on the surface. Break-ins had been happening across the rural outskirts lately, so late-night requests weren't impossible. What bothered me was the follow-up message. The address won't show up on your GPS. Use these directions exactly. What followed was an unnervingly detailed set of instructions. Turns, slopes, fences, landmarks, written with the precision of someone who'd memorized every inch of the route. It led to the far end of a dead-end road just outside a neglected cluster of rural houses. A place no delivery driver would go unless forced. The decision should have been easy. Ignore it. But something in the message implied urgency, and the job had been slow that week. So I grabbed my tool bag, slipped my ID lanyard into my jacket, and headed out. The further I drove, the more the streetlights disappeared. Soon, there were no lights at all, just the glow of my headlights reflecting off the trees leaning over the narrow road. The last stretch was a steep incline, gravel crunching under the tires, the kind of path that made you wonder if you'd been tricked into trespassing. At the top, a single house waited. No porch light, no sound. Just a dim lantern glow coming from a window on the right side. It wasn't abandoned, but it wasn't alive either. I parked near a chain-link fence and texted, "I'm here." 10 seconds later, "Front door's unlocked. Please come in." Unlocked. In a place like this? That alone went against everything my job taught me. Still, I stepped out, grabbing my tool bag from the passenger seat. The night air was colder than it should have been. The ground smelled of wet iron and dirt. Something about the silence made the skin on my neck tighten. When I reached the door, I nudged it gently. It opened immediately, swinging inward without resistance. The first thing that hit me was the temperature. Not cold. Dead. Dead in the way basements get when no sunlight reaches them. Dead in the way abandoned cabins feel in winter. Inside, the house was lit by 2 old camping lanterns sitting on the floor. No electrical lighting, no warmth from vents, no hum of appliances, just empty rooms and a faint metallic scent. "Hello?" I called out. Floorboards creaked in a back hallway, and a man stepped into view. Thin, older than me by at least 20 years. Gray at the temples, eyes sharp in a way that made it hard to look directly at him. "You're the technician?" he asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. Measured, like someone practicing a script. "Yes, sir," I answered. "I received your message. You mentioned a security issue?" He nodded once. "There's something wrong with the locks, and the house doesn't feel safe anymore." I'd heard stranger complaints. People get paranoid when they live alone in isolated places. I set my tool bag on a dusty table near the entryway. He watched me place it down. He watched with too much interest. "Do you always carry that much equipment?" he asked. "Standard kit," I said casually. "Everything I need is in there." "Everything," he repeated, as if he were tasting the word. Something tightened in my spine. I forced myself to keep the conversation professional. He motioned toward a hallway. "Let me show you the problem." As I followed, my boots stuck slightly to the wooden floor. There was a faint layer of grime. Like the place hadn't been cleaned in years, the walls were scarred by old nail holes. Some door frames looked warped. And yet, despite the house appearing abandoned, the layout felt lived in. A folded blanket here, a mug on a table. personal items hidden among the decay. He led me into a room where one camping lantern cast a dim yellow circle on the floor. "This door," he said quietly. I inspected the frame. The latch had been forced, long ago by the look of it. The strike plate was nearly falling out. Definitely not a recent problem. "When did this happen?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted to my tool bag, which I'd set down earlier. "You fix locks," he said. "You understand entry points. You know how people get into places they shouldn't." His tone wasn't suspicious. It was admiring. "That's one way to put it," I said. He stepped closer. "And you know how to keep people out. You know which doors matter, which windows people forget, which rooms stay hidden if someone knows how to hide them." I tried to laugh it off. I suppose that's the job. He didn't blink. Something in the back of my mind, a quiet, trained instinct, began screaming. I reached for my tool bag. "Actually," I said, "let me just grab my tools." He spoke over me, soft, deliberate. "Before you do that, could you take a look at something?" He walked past me, toward the deepest room of the house, a room with no windows, a room lit only by one lantern sitting on the floor. Against better judgment, I followed. When I stepped over the threshold, a cold draft brushed my ankles. I turned to glance at the door. It was already closing, slow, steady, until it clicked shut. A quiet metallic sound followed, coming from beneath the table near my tool bag. Not loud, not aggressive, just a small, chilling snap, like a metal bar sliding into place. I tried the door. It didn't budge. Behind me, the man exhaled. "I need you to stay," he whispered. And that was when I realized the room wasn't a room at all. It was a holding space. A place meant for someone to enter and not leave. The lantern flickered. Something metal shifted under the floorboards. The air tasted of rust. I was no longer here to fix a lock. I was the one locked in. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, a cold realization settled in my stomach. This man hadn't called a security technician. He'd called a target. The lantern in the center of the room cast long, trembling shadows across the floorboards. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed something in the far corner. A metal chair. It wasn't just a chair. It was a chair that had been modified. Straps bolted to the armrests. A horizontal metal bar fixed across the back, scratches on the floor beneath it, like someone had struggled hard. My hand instinctively moved toward the door again. Still locked, still sealed. Behind me, the man spoke softly. "Sit." "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm leaving. This isn't—" He tilted his head. "Sit, you fix locks for a living. You know better than anyone how long it would take for me to stop you from leaving." The calm in his voice was worse than a threat. I backed up. He didn't touch me. He didn't raise his hands. He simply stepped aside, giving me a clear view of the metal chair. "I built it for someone like you," he whispered. "Someone who understands doors and how to get past them. You're the most dangerous kind of visitor." "What the hell does that mean?" I demanded. He smiled. "It means I don't trust you standing." He pressed something on the wall. A metallic clank echoed under the floorboards. The air felt like it folded inward. My legs gave out. Not because he hit me, because in that moment, every survival instinct I had screamed that he could kill me before anyone realized I was gone. I sat. He moved behind me without rushing. No hurry, no anger, just purpose. Cold metal touched my waist as he slid the horizontal bar across the chair, locking my arms between my ribs and the steel frame. It wasn't tight, but it didn't have to be. One wrong move, and he could tighten it instantly. He circled back into view and knelt in front of me. People like you, he said calmly, learn alarm systems, locks, escape routes. You mark weak points without realizing you're doing it. It becomes instinct. His eyes lifted to mine. That makes you the most dangerous person who could walk into this house. I swallowed. My mouth felt dry. You're making a mistake, I said. You fix security, he whispered. But you also understand how to break it, and I can't have someone like you walking around unsupervised. He reached toward my pocket. Phone. I hesitated. He tapped the metal bar resting on my ribs. Just once. A reminder. I handed it to him. He unlocked it using my face, then opened my recent calls. Let's see, he muttered. Who do you trust enough to call when something goes wrong? His eyes scanned the list. He smirked. This one, he said, pointing. A coworker. Someone who thinks you're worth helping. He handed the phone back to me. Ask him for money. What? Ask him for $300. Right now. Text or call. Doesn't matter. Why? He raised an eyebrow. Because I want to hear the truth about your life. From someone who doesn't know I'm listening. I dialed my coworker, answered on the third ring. Hey man, what's up? My voice cracked. I need some help. Can you send me $300? Right now? I'll explain later. There was a long pause. Dude, not tonight. I'm dealing with my own crap. Why are you even asking me this late? Please, it's important. Man, you always do this, always asking for favors and disappearing. Handle your own stuff for once. Click. He hung up. I lowered the phone slowly. The man leaned forward, studying my face. There it is, he said softly. The moment a person realizes how alone he really is. He stood up, pacing once around the room. You know, he said, I thought you'd have more people who care, but you're disappointingly mediocre. He stopped behind me. Show me your ID. My pulse jumped. Why? So I can remember you. I'm not giving you. He placed a hand on the metal bar and pushed down. It tightened, just slightly, but enough to squeeze the air out of my lungs. Your ID. I handed it to him. He took a photo of it with his burner phone, then another, from different angles. Perfect, he murmured. 6 months from now, there will be someone out there who needs your information. I'll make sure it gets to them. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. I felt cold. Why are you doing this? I asked. He looked at me with something like pity. Because you're the kind of man no one would miss fast enough, and because tonight, someone took interest in you. Someone, I repeated. Who? He smiled faintly. Luckily for you, only one person wanted you. If there had been more, you wouldn't be going home. He reached down and unlatched the bar. Just like that. Freedom. My legs trembled as I stood. He gestured toward the front door. Go, he said simply. I didn't wait. I pushed past him, stumbling down the hallway, past the lanterns, out into the freezing night air. I half ran, half slid down the gravel incline. Branches scraped my arms as I rushed toward my car. When I reached the bottom of the hill and fumbled with my keys, a sound echoed from above. Clang. A heavy metal door shutting. Then again. Clang. Then again. The same rhythm, the same tone, over and over and over, like he was closing something or someone was closing something for him. I drove away without looking back, but as I reached the main road, I felt a vibration in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. See you soon. I changed everything after that night. My number, my job, my apartment, even the state I lived in. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not my coworkers, not my neighbors, not my family. I packed the essentials, drove through the night, crossed a state line, and found a quiet apartment above a hardware store in a town nobody visits unless they're lost. For a while, it worked. No strange messages, no blocked calls, no shadows following me home. Just silence. And I clung to that silence like a lifeline. By the time a year had passed, I'd convinced myself that what happened on that dead-end hill was over. It became something I tried not to remember, something I swallowed and buried under new routines and a safer life. But trauma doesn't end. It waits. And when it returns exactly the way it left, quiet and calculated. It started with a text that shouldn't have been possible. We'd like a new security system installed. Tonight. There was no number displayed. Just an empty sender field, a blank header, a message with no origin. I stared at it, frozen. Spoof numbers existed, sure, but a fully blank sender. That wasn't normal. It wasn't even supposed to be possible without specialized tools. I tried to tell myself it was a glitch. Spammers could do strange things. Maybe it was random. Maybe. Another message came in. Follow the address exactly. My heart dropped into my stomach, because that line, that exact phrase, was how everything started a year ago. I almost threw my phone across the room. Instead, I paced. For minutes, maybe longer. My first instinct was to block the message, but there was nothing to block. No number, no ID, no way to trace it. And the address, it was in the commercial district on the other side of town, an industrial zone filled with old warehouses, repair shops, and shuttered businesses that hadn't reopened since the recession. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted everything and stayed inside. But fear does something strange to a man. It makes him want answers even when he knows those answers will hurt him. So I drove. The streetlights thinned out as I approached the district. The warehouses loomed like dead giants, their windows boarded, their yards fenced off with rusted wire. My GPS said I had arrived, but the building in front of me was wrong. It wasn't a business. It wasn't even partially active. It was fully abandoned, a 3-story brick structure with broken windows, vegetation growing through cracks in the foundation, and a steel door chained shut. No lights, no cars, no movement, no client. I stepped out of the car anyway. A mistake. The air felt colder than the rest of town, as if this one block had been cut out of the world and kept in a freezer. The silence was suffocating. I walked the perimeter, checked the loading dock, called out once, nothing. But in the middle of the lot, near a pile of warped pallets, I found something that made my skin crawl. A single camping lantern. The same kind as the ones in that house, broken, dead, but unmistakably the same model. My vision blurred for a moment. This wasn't a random message someone had pulled me back in. I backed away from the building and headed toward my car. That's when headlights hit me. Fast, not approaching the lot, not turning in, not slowing down, just slamming into me from the side. I heard the impact before I felt it. The world spun. The ground punched the air out of my lungs. My left leg twisted in a direction it should never twist. When the car finally stopped, I couldn't move. My ears rang. My vision doubled. Someone stepped out of the driver's seat. A woman. Middle-aged coat zipped to her chin. Not panicked, not apologetic. She walked straight toward me and crouched beside my injured leg. Instead of helping, she placed her thumb on my kneecap and pressed, slowly, deliberately, like she was examining a piece of meat. Her face didn't show concern. It showed certainty, recognition, approval. She whispered something I barely heard. "Yes, this will do." Then she smiled, a small, clinical smile. And without another word, she stepped back into her car and drove away. Calm, unhurried, like everything had gone exactly as planned. When the ambulance arrived, I couldn't even explain what happened. Shock took over. The paramedics kept asking questions, but my mind stayed stuck on the way she pressed my leg, like someone inspecting property they already owned. I woke up in the hospital hours later. My leg stabilized, wrapped, propped up. The room was dim. Machines hummed softly. My phone buzzed on the bedside table, unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. A voice, distorted, almost amused, asked, "How's the security at your new place?" I froze before I could speak. The call ended. No number, no trace, nothing. The heart monitor beeped erratically beside me. I slid off the bed and limped to the hallway. Dragging the IV pole, the hospital corridor was empty. Too empty for the middle of the night. Only the buzzing lights and distant echo of a cleaning machine. Then the lights flickered, not once, not twice, but in a deliberate rhythm. Flicker, flicker. Pause. Flicker. Right above the CCTV cameras. I followed the lights with my eyes and looked at the closest monitor behind the nurse's station. The footage stuttered, paused, skipped forward, then stopped entirely, and in the frozen image, in the middle of the hallway, stood a dark silhouette tall, shoulders angled, head tilted unnaturally to one side, facing the camera, as if waiting for me to notice it, and then, for just a fraction of a second, the silhouette leaned closer to the lens, black, featureless, but undeniably looking at me. The screen blinked. The figure vanished. The hallway went dark, and somewhere down the corridor, someone whispered, "1 year, just like I promised." I didn't sleep the first week after the hospital, not because of the pain in my leg, but because of the silence. It wasn't normal silence. It was the kind that follows you, the kind that listens. 3 days after the accident, 2 detectives showed up at my apartment. Their badges looked real. Their tone didn't. They asked about the woman who ran me over. I told them everything. Her face, her movements, the way she pressed on my injured leg. They exchanged a look I recognized immediately. Pity, fear, and something else. Inconvenience. "Sir," one of them finally said, "the man who attacked you last year, the one who locked you in that house, he's gone." "Gone as in hiding?" I asked. "No," he replied. "Gone as in, he doesn't exist in any system anymore." "What are you talking about?" "We checked his driver's license, medical records, tax records, even old employment files. Every trace of him has been deleted. Cleanly, professionally." My throat tightened. "Some offenders wipe small things," the detective continued. "A citation, a mailbox listing, but a full erasure? That's not something an individual does." "So who does?" He didn't answer, but the way he looked at me said enough. Not someone, some organization. Before they left, the older detective pulled me aside. "Listen carefully," he whispered. "Someone's digging into your background, but they're not trying to hurt you yet. They're trying to understand you." "Why?" "To know where to apply pressure." They left me with a card and a warning. "If someone contacts you again, don't respond. Call us first." I never used the card, because things didn't escalate through calls. They escalated quietly. At first, I thought it was coincidence. A black SUV parked across the street, then a white sedan, then a rusted pickup. Different cars, different plates, always with someone sitting inside just long enough for me to notice, never long enough for me to approach. One night at 3:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Front door sensor. Activated. I froze. My apartment entryway is tiny. Just 3 steps and a metal door with a reinforced strike plate. I'd installed a small motion sensor above the frame, the kind that sends silent alerts when someone is within a foot of the threshold. I checked the live feed. Nothing. Black hallway. Empty. I checked the timestamp again. 3:14:02 a.m. Activated 3:14:03 a.m. Activated 3:14:04 a.m. Activated. Someone was standing in front of my door, but the camera wasn't picking them up. I shut off the feed, waited, listened. Then, a soft scrape. Metal on metal. Someone dragging a thin object across the frame of my door, like a fingertip or a knife tip, tracing the outline of my lock. My blood pressure spiked so hard I thought I'd faint. I waited until sunrise before opening the door. Nothing outside, no footprints, no marks, not even dust disturbed. But the mail slot had something new. A single piece of paper, plain, unmarked. Inside, one sentence typed in small gray letters. "There are more eyes on you than you think." My hands trembled so badly the paper almost slipped. That afternoon, my neighbor a floor below knocked on my door. A man in his late 50s, friendly, quiet. "I didn't want to bother you," he said, "but someone was knocking on my door around 3 last night. Didn't say anything, just tapping. Did you see who it was?" He nodded slowly. "No, but..." The shadow under the door looked wrong. Too long. I shut my door before he finished speaking. The next day, my co-worker at the security company didn't show up for work. No one could reach him. The day after that, my building manager asked if someone was messing with the electrical panel in the basement. Not sabotaging it, copying it, photographing breakers, measuring spacing, not stealing anything, just gathering information about the building, about the people, about me. By the end of the week, I stopped leaving home after dark, but even inside, I wasn't safe. My phone chimed one morning with a new text from an unknown number. "You've been seen." A second message arrived instantly after, and they liked what they saw. I blocked the number, it didn't matter. 5 minutes later, an email arrived. Same wording, same punctuation, no sender, no reply address. And then, the part that made my chest collapse. My boss called. "Hey, weird question," he said. "Did you mean to send me your full driver's license and social security info last night? I woke up to an email from your address. I didn't send anything." "Well, there are attachments, all your documents, clear scans." Someone had used my identity, copied it, forwarded it. And now people in my life were being pulled into the mess. I rushed home, heart hammering. Locked the door, checked every camera feed. Living room, clear. Kitchen, clear. Hallway, clear. But the feed from my front door glitched, static. Gray waves across the screen. Then, a figure materialized. Not a face, not a person, a shape. Long, narrow, distorted, like someone stretched from the collarbone to the waist. Rib cage unnaturally elongated, as if pulled like taffy. No arms visible, no legs, just a torso. Too long, too thin, swaying slightly in the frame of the camera. 3 seconds. That's all I got. 3 full seconds of the thing standing inches from my door. Its top half bending forward as if it were trying to squeeze through the peephole. Then the feed cut out completely. When it came back, the figure was gone. But a new message waited on my phone. "Now we know where you sleep." My breath hitched. My hands went cold. Someone had moved beyond stalking, beyond threats. Someone had introduced the handler. The thing they send only when they've already chosen you. I used to believe that a single person ruined my life. The man in the dead-end house. The woman who hit me with her car. The silhouette leaning into the hospital camera, the elongated figure outside my apartment. But by the time the 4th month passed, the truth finally settled in. It was never just one person. It was a network, a selection process, a system, and I was a file in that system. I first understood it when the credit card company called Sir, the representative said, "We're confirming your recent activity." What activity? Well, 15 login attempts from 5 different states, 2 confirmed approvals, 3 declined purchases, and 1 transaction flagged as handler access, manual. Handler, I repeated, my voice cracking. What does that mean? "We're not authorized to say," the rep whispered. Then the line went dead. A minute later, a new charge appeared on my banking app. Verification fee, $0. No location, no merchant, no timestamp. Just a record confirming something had been verified. I smashed the phone on the counter. It didn't matter. Another phone, my backup device I never used, buzzed from inside the kitchen drawer. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail auto-transcribed. "You can change your phone, but you can't change who owns your file." I moved out that night, left everything behind except my tools and a duffel bag, bought a used car with cash, drove across 3 states using back roads, slept in motels where no one asked for ID, but running doesn't erase a file. It only shows them where your boundaries are. Because the next morning when I turned on the burner phone, there was a weather alert notification, except the message wasn't about the weather. "Moderate risk in your area. Our watchers confirmed movement. Stay indoors until contact." There was no signature, but I knew who it belonged to. By then I had pieced together small details. The first man who locked me in that house wasn't improvising. He was collecting data. He checked my toolkit because he needed to know what I could break. He photographed my ID because someone else needed it later. He told me others would be interested. And they were. The accident wasn't random. The woman pressing on my injured leg, testing my response, wasn't random. The calls in the hospital, the CCTV freezing, the silhouette leaning toward the lens. None of it was random. Someone wanted to know how I reacted under pressure. Someone wanted to know how fast I ran, how quickly I learned, how I adapted, how I hid. And now, they knew everything. Credit, location, employment, medical, personal, even the secrets I didn't say out loud. One evening, after weeks of hiding, I parked in front of a cheap 2-story rental home in a town where no one stays longer than a season. The landlord didn't ask my last name. Cash was enough. That night, while unpacking, I heard a ping. My new home security system, one I installed myself using parts I trusted, sent its first alert, "New device found on network." Impossible. I built the system offline. No Wi-Fi, no cloud, no remote access. I opened the panel. Everything looked untouched. Then the second alert came. Firmware updated successfully. No date, no version. That message chilled me more than anything else that year because only one group could update a device that wasn't online. Someone physically inside the house. I checked every door, every window, every closet. Nothing. But the air smelled different. Like plastic, warmed by a long, slow breath. That night I lay awake listening for anything out of place. At 12:03 a.m., my phone vibrated. A push alert. Motion detected. Front door, 12:03 a.m. My heart seized. I opened the live feed. Nothing, empty porch, still night air, no shadows, no insects, no branches moving, just emptiness. But the motion sensor didn't trigger falsely. Not once since installation. Someone was there. Someone the camera couldn't see. Another alert. Motion detected. Front door, 12:03 a.m. Still nothing. Then, from somewhere inside the house, A sound metal. A soft, slow clink, like a latch being tightened. The exact sound the first man made a year ago when he locked the modified chair around my wrists. My throat closed. I stepped back. Then the phone buzzed. A new message, one line, no number, no sender. Just text. We open what you close. My legs buckled because it wasn't a threat. It was a reminder, a rule, a statement of ownership. I lifted my head slowly, terrified of what I'd see. The hallway was empty, but the air felt crowded, as if someone had just stepped out of sight. And in the reflection on the dark window, I saw something that wasn't me. A second outline. Long, thin, bent slightly, as if listening, waiting. The network hadn't found me again. They had never lost me. Today's story ends here. More terrifying stories are coming soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.